is local, and it's downstream of culture. Now, that might seem like a really confusing statement unless you really think about it for a minute. But even if you think about it for a minute, it might seem even more confusing than the initial statement. All leadership is local, and it's downstream of culture. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Now, maybe you've heard that phrase before. Maybe you haven't. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. Maybe you've heard the phrase, all politics is local, and it's downstream of culture. Well, I believe that's exactly why all leadership is local, and it's also downstream of culture. What do I mean by local? Well, first off, it happens right here with me first. I can't lead. I can't be involved in politics. I can't be involved in expressing my ideas or influence in anybody else's life until I know that they've worked in my own. How many times have you seen someone who wants to press their ideas, press their leadership qualities, their political agenda, their global initiatives down your throat, but they haven't even tried them on their own, or they've tried them and they didn't work. They've applied them and they failed, or they even failed to implement them where they were tried. And every time they come back and say, well, it'll work if enough people do it, enough of you people do it. If enough of everybody else does it, it won't matter what I do. That's kind of the way that, tyranny starts. It's kind of the way the dictators operate. Everybody else will do what I tell them to do, and, well, I'll do what I want to do. That's kind of how it works. Well, it doesn't work because leadership is local. Leadership starts with me. It starts with you. The people that you lead, the people that you influence, expect you to do what you ask them to do. They expect to see that the same policies apply to you that apply to them. If they are expected to manage certain standards, you should be expected to hold those same standards. If they're expected to follow certain policies and procedures, you should be expected to follow those same policies and procedures. If they're good for the group, they're good for the leader. Well, the same is true in politics. We don't want our state representatives, our city council, our mayors, our governors, our national political heroes, our global political heroes. We don't want them to live by a standard that's different than what they enforce on us. We don't want them to live a life where they kind of get away with anything and yet we're held accountable for everything. That's not a system of equality or equity like we want to see in the world. And so when we say that both leadership and politics are local, what we mean is they start first in the smallest sphere of influence, yourself. Maybe the people you live with, then the people you work with, then the people you're responsible to, then the people you're responsible for, like your kids or your employees or your team. When you lead them to make decisions, to take action, and you find that that action, that decision is destructive, it's costly, it hurts people, it costs a lot of money, it does damage that's irreparable, like chemicals in the water. I mean, we're just now hearing after several years, I've been out of the Air Force for a minute now, but we're now hearing that the firefighting foam that I used while on active duty is cancer causing. And it's not just cancer causing. It has a 1 billion year half-life, apparently. It never goes away. And now that all the fires that have been fought with this AFFF foam have been put out all over the world, all of that chemical has leached into the water system all over the planet. And it's not just cancer causing in contact on your skin, it's now being ingested in your water systems all over the world. And just keep listening to what's going on around you. All right, so is leadership local? Well, somebody knew what kind of studies had been done or hadn't been done on that kind of foam when they created it, when they first merged it with water and said, oh, look how good it does at putting out a petroleum fire. We should use a lot of that stuff. Somebody knew then what the chemical harm could be, what the lethality could be, what the half-life could be. And the fact that they didn't act then shows that they were making decisions purely on profit or immediacy and not the long-term effect. All politics, all leadership is local. It starts right here, right now. Are the decisions you're making right here and right now good for the short term and the long term, or just good for the moment? Are they prudent for the long term? Are they prudent for the incident? That is a significant difference. Will you be making good long-term decisions, or just making decisions that make you feel good, look good, make you profitable right now? You've got to be responsible as a leader to ask yourself that question and answer it honestly. So the second half of my statement, all leadership is local and it's downstream of culture. What does it mean it's downstream of culture? Well, let's take that to the political example. In the political example, a culture, the way that people operate, the way that people interact, the way that people treat each other, is usually an essential element of the condition of the neighborhood, the condition of the community, the condition of the workplace, the condition of the family. If the culture is negativity and hateful words and judgment and criticism and meism and competition and selfishness, you know, if you live or work in an environment like that where everybody else's agenda overrides your own and nobody has an agenda for everybody, everybody has their own individual independent goals to achieve, and they don't care who they have to step on to get them. Well, we see that in the political arena. We see that when local city council, local school boards, local governors or county commissioners court or county judges make decisions that line their pockets with profit. That's the politics being local, but it's all about the culture. So if you get 5 or 6 leaders who are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get their way to the top, they're willing to give out perks and benefits to their buddies so that they can continue to get to the top of the food chain and maintain control. Well, that culture is going to feed into everything they do. That culture is going to mean if you play ball with them, if you negotiate with them, if you give them the favors they expect from you, if they get the perks that they expect you to deliver, well, good on you. You'll get all the good things that you want. You'll get the approval on your permits. You'll get the opportunity to do business with the local government. You'll get opportunity to build where you want to build and build what you want to build. You'll get everything that's necessary to pull that off if you are willing to play the system, so to speak. If that's the culture that's established by your local leadership and your local government, well, then that's exactly the kind of result that you're going to see. You're going to see that leadership is local. It's decided in the county courthouse. It's decided by the individual. It's decided by the local leader. But it's also a result of, or it's downstream of, the culture. Do they believe in honesty and values of integrity, in morality? Is there a baseline for what's right and what's wrong, regardless of who it benefits? If those things are true, then that culture will drive the decisions that are made. That culture will help the local organizations and those in expanding spheres continue to make decisions based on what's right and good for everybody, not just the selfish agenda. Now, if leadership is local and it's downstream of culture, if politics is local and it's downstream of culture, then the immediate result of that is to say that the decisions that you make as an individual be influenced by the culture of your family, the culture of the organization that you work in, the culture of the community that you live in. And as all of those pieces come together, you're going to make decisions that way. You're going to benefit or not benefit yourself and others strictly based on those results. Yes, I'm still outside and there's a kitty cat running free. And all the dogs in the neighborhood hate that idea. Politics. Why can't the cats just stay home? Well, because they're free roaming cats and they do what they want to, and the dogs don't like it. And so I get a bark fest. And what sounds like 15 rabbits in my backyard. This is what happens when you relocate and you don't get to bring your studio with you. But today I get to meet with the local studio owner. Actually, it's not a studio right now. It's a 3,500 square foot warehouse. But we are going to be talking about putting the studio in there and offering audiovisual services for the entire community through that, so that we can both generate revenue and income and accommodate not having the bark fest in the middle of my podcast. So here we are to real life. Here we are to the real world and life as we know it. Leadership is local. And it's downstream of culture. And if you don't recognize that as a leader, there will be a price to be paid for that. You'll realize very soon that the way you think, the people you hang out with, the culture in your immediate environment has a direct impact on the way you do business and the way you lead. Take time to figure out what your culture is. And then remember that leadership is also very local. It starts and ends with me. The way I lead me will feed into the way I lead others or fail to lead others. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.